where we speak truth. By students, for students, that's the proof. Grab the mic, learn to move and groove. And our world, sit back and feel the youth.
Episode 3, Affinity Spaces, Intro, Take 2.
Hey Hall Pass crew, and welcome back to Between Classrooms.
Today's episode is on Affinity Spaces and will feature an educator who is well-versed in Affinity Space logistics. My co-host and I will also be having a conversation about our experience with Affinity Spaces and advice on how to make them successful.
To begin, Affinity Spaces are supportive environments where students who share a common identity or lived experience, such as race, gender, or sexuality, can connect, feel understood, and build community. These spaces promote belonging, empowerment, and an open dialogue within the school setting.
Hey MJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing today, Mars?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so excited for this topic.
I'm excited to see Brenda Joseph talk about 5 powers and all the amazing work they've done. I think this episode's going to be really great.
Yeah, I can't wait. So, do we have anything we want our viewers to know beforehand?
I think that they should be inspired by the work that 5 Powers has done and try to integrate it into their schools. Because,
and all of them are, student-led. So,
yeah.
These are students' minds and ideas. So, no teachers are involved. So, yeah.
I hope students are inspired to, take charge in their schools, and I hope teachers are inspired to step down from power.
Yes, I hope so, too.
Okay, without further ado, let's talk about banned books.
Banned books, banned books. Bam!
Episode 3, Affinity Spaces, Banned Books, Take 2.
Now it's time for this episode's banned books. We have 2 books focused on youth finding themselves in. Now it is time for this episode's banned books. We have 2 books focused on youth finding themselves in their spaces where they feel like they belong.
George M. Johnson's memoir, All Boys Aren't Blue, explores the complexities of growing up Black and queer in America, offering a deeply personal look at identity, family, and resilience. Through vivid storytelling, Johnson highlights the importance of affirming LGBTQIA+ experience within the Black communities, breaking silence around gender and sexuality. The book champions diversity by insisting on space for intersectional identities in conversations about inclusion. The book champions diversity by insisting on space for intersectional identities and conversations about inclusion.
Adjusting my mic. We Are Everywhere by Leighton Brown and Matthew Reimer is a powerful visual history of the LGBTQIA+ rights movement, documenting decades of activism, resistance, and celebration across diverse communities. By showcasing underrepresented voice, especially queer people of color and trans individuals, it reframes LGBTQIA+ history through a more inclusive lens. The book emphasizes that true progress in the fight for equality comes from embracing the full spectrum of queer identities.
Check out our show notes for more information on our banned books. Hello, Hall Pass crew. Today we have a very special guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Brenda Joseph. I work at a local high school as the instructional coach, and I'm also an advisor for our student voice group.
How do you identify, if you mind sharing?
I absolutely don't mind. I use the pronouns she, her. I'm a white cisgender female. I'm a mom. I have a lot of different facets to my identity.
What is an affinity group in your words?
An affinity group is a group of people that have a shared identity, and that often means that an affinity group meets with the purpose of sharing their experiences and the benefits and also sometimes the negatives of their identity at school. And I guess I'm saying this in terms of an affinity group at a school because that's my experience with them.
What is it like advising an affinity group / student voice and you work with 5 Powers?
It is amazing. So, advising an affinity group, can I break this up into three different parts? Yeah. Okay. So, advising an affinity group is one thing that I have less experience with. I have spent some time supporting our affinity groups as they're getting started, or like covering when they were missing an advisor, but I have not like actually run most of the affinity groups for any extended period of time. I've helped students when they're looking for an advisor, but most of my experience has been with our student voice group. I've been an advisor for student voice for quite some time, like pre-pandemic, and it's definitely gone through some changes. What it's like is being open, listening, and letting students lead. And that's really like the central idea of student voice. Students need to have a voice in their education. It's really important because we can't just keep repeating school the way school has always been. There would be no progress in education, but there also wouldn't be progress in our community if we don't take into account the experiences of the students that we are working with. And then Five Powers has been probably the most impactful experience I've had as an advisor. Its existence really is because of students. Students came up with the idea, students have driven the work that we've done, and it has really opened a lot of new experiences for me as an adult and advisor, but I think it has also made a huge impact at our school, and that in itself is just phenomenal.
Are there any requirements for you to advise an affinity group? Do you have to Do you have to represent that group to advise an affinity group?
That's a really good question. That's something that has come up a few times recently. I don't think that it's necessarily required that you represent an identity to be an advisor, but you have to be a person that is willing to do the work, learn some things, and let students lead. Because students that do have that identity are the ones that know what they're experiencing and what they need and what supports that they need. So allowing them to make those feelings and like basically requirements lead you is really important. We have definitely had some teachers that do not represent the identity of the affinity group that they support, and they do a really good job of it. I think the requirements to being an advisor are having students ask you to be their advisor. They want you to be the person that helps them and that supports them. And basically just being a teacher that can be trusted is what's the most important thing. It's great if that person does represent the identity of the student group, but it's also an opportunity for teachers to learn. So that's not necessarily a bad thing if students would like someone that is not of their identity to be their advisor.
Do you have any advice for staff members / teachers who want to help advise an affinity group?
Listen to your students. I mean, that's probably the most important thing about being an advisor. I mean, advising isn't just letting kids do whatever they want, because that's the role of an advisor, to be the adult that like asks questions and helps them make good decisions. But that doesn't mean talking over them, overruling them. It means guiding them. So I think that that's really the most important thing about being an advisor is advising. That's why it's called that. Your job is to help kids be successful, explore their identities, explore ways that they can contribute to their school environment, and just be themselves.
What makes an affinity group such a safe haven for students?
I think that the idea of affinity space is shared experience, and I think that's what makes it safe. I mean, not everyone that has the same identity has the same experience, but being able to talk about that in a space that is confidential, that provides security, knowing that your peers aren't going to go out and tell everyone else about your experience, unless of course you want them to, then that's probably what provides safety. And that's part of the advisor's job, is making sure that it's very clear that what happens in there stays there, unless of course there's a danger, and that is then their responsibility to make sure that the students are safe.
Yeah. Can I ask a follow-up question? What do you think the schools can do better on supporting affinities groups?
That's a really good question. My experience with affinity groups has been largely student driven, and I don't know that that's true at all schools. And I think that that is probably something that maybe should be considered if it's not happening at schools, that it would be clearly one thing that should be done a little bit differently. I do know that at one point in time, at my school, there was a lot of students feeling a little bit off balance because their locations were changed, and that made kids feel like they were kind of being broken apart because they didn't feel like they had a safe space. So we had to work together to find a solution for that. And I think that we were successful in that, but that's just kind of something to be aware of too, that like what changes impact affinity groups are things that need to kind of be addressed with the affinity group themselves. Not necessarily like in our case, the reason that change happened was like it was not a displacement intentionally. But if there hadn't been an advisor willing to like work through that with kids, it would have left kids feeling a lot of hurt. So just being aware and being ready to act and react to those things is important.
I like that. Do you have any like things to say to our hall pass crew, as we call our viewers, or any additional notes?
I think I should have prepared for this. I think that I would just say that like if you feel like you're not being heard, then maybe you need to find someone else to listen. Sometimes people, and that includes adults in particular, are not ready to hear things, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't. And if you find the right person, the right adult that you can trust, and don't let things go, and keep standing up for what you believe in, then things will get better.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
Episode 3, Affinity Spaces. Sorry, y'all. Outro, take 3.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Between Classrooms. As always, we hope you're feeling inspired and have new ideas for perspectives of how... Well, that's it for today's episode of Between Classrooms. As always, we hope you're feeling inspired and have new ideas or perspectives for how you can make change through an affinity space.
We want to thank Miss Joseph for providing some insight on this important work.
Feel free to check out our show notes. Our banned books and resources can be found there.
We'll see you next time on Between Classrooms. Adios.
Bye!